Fuck Me Gently with a Chainsaw. Heather's is coming up next.
Haven't Seen It with Tim Sestito and Tommy Tevene. Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. Thank you all so much for listening today. This is a podcast where one of us is watching a movie for the very first time. Today, that is myself. Tommy, have you seen Heathers before?
Yeah, this is like my third or fourth watch.
Third or fourth watch. This is me coming in here. We are also joined by our special guest returning to the pod, Connor Dowling. Welcome back. Thanks for having
How are
us.
you, fellas and listeners?
Thanks for coming back on here. I do like that my mom was just like, there's so much cursing on the podcast. Can you stop it? And then Tommy leads it off with an F-bomb directly off the top. And I was like, the podcast is good, but there's just a lot of cursing. And then Tommy just drops an F-bomb.
Oh,
like, immediately.
We go full blue on this podcast.
Well, I know, Tommy. I was giving you feedback, and it was just funny. I felt like so Heathers. Interesting movie. I usually go into these movies blind, like not really knowing much about it, other than it was like a Christian Slater, Winona Ryder breakout movie for them. And to say I was a little bit surprised by the movie would be an understatement. Very dark, very dark movie.
Dark comedy.
Yeah, dark as hell right here. So I mean, like, it works. This is a movie I think is a litmus test for a lot of my friendships. I remember I showed this movie to a friend. So Tim, no pressure right now whatsoever. But I remember
we're already getting into the click vibe already. Like, what do you think? Otherwise, you're not part of the club.
Exactly. Put you on the spot right now. First impressions.
I thought it was a good movie. I just wasn't particularly in the mood after working all day to then throw on Heathers and then like watch that, like not really knowing what it was. And like, it's a very mean movie. Like the first 5 minutes of this movie,
it's extremely mean. It's
mean.
extremely dark. It's extremely mean.
It's a very mean movie. But we'll dive into it a little bit more later. As always, we usually kick it off with something we've watched lately. Dowling, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, okay. You know what? It was actually really fascinating, and I truly enjoyed it. At the end of my summer, I usually have some time before the school year starts, and I revisited the show Entourage and the Entourage movie.
The Entourage movie. I remember that.
I'm an old man.
I haven't seen either.
They're quite good. I'm an old man, and I was living in Queens when Entourage came out, and that's like a very big theme of their
identity.
The main characters, their identity, of course, and like was waiting tables and grinding when that movie came out. And it was so funny to watch it as an older fella who's a dad who has kids. And a couple of the things that I thought were so cool, I was like, oh my God. But like, it was still funny. It still holds up. But like, it's just a decade gives you a lot of different perspective, you know? And I feel like that holds true for this movie too.
I was about to say, like,
generations are a real thing. It really is. like everyone liked Dane Cook in 2000s, and everyone liked rollerblading in the 90s, and everyone pretends they didn't.
You're holding the flame for rollerblading.
And everybody,
I am.
And everybody in the 80s pretended, wanted to blow up their school, and then everybody pretended like they didn't.
That was how you were edgy in the 80s. It's like that was like the beginning of goth.
I wasn't alive.
70s was punk, 80s was goth.
Yeah, Cure, Joy Division, New Order,
God
all the
bless
good shit.
Them all. I love them.
All right, Tommy, what about you?
So speaking on the goth theme, I watched a Tim Burton movie last week called Frankenweenie. Nice little cute movie. I decided to fuck it, end of the day, I'll just put on this movie. If that was a nice little charming movie, Winona Ryder was also in it, as she's in so many Tim Burton movies, and it was just a very charming, ode to the Universal horror movies. and I thought the animation was just really fun and like similar Night Before Christmas vibe. Which Tim, I don't think you've ever seen Night Before Christmas, right?
No, maybe as a kid, I'd have to really think about it, to be honest.
Oh,
All right,
that's a good one.
That's a Halloween pick right there for us. But
Yeah.
Frankenweenie, very fun little charming movie. But yeah, overall you get a Tim Burton pastiche, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's part of that trilogy of Nightmare Before Christmas, Frankenweenie, Corpse Bride, Tim Burton vibe. Like there's an internet kind of meme that the dog from all three is the same dog.
Oh yeah. I can definitely see that.
Very cute, very cute. And it works nice when you have kids because it's a Halloween movie and it's a Christmas movie.
Night Before Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I also, in the cutesy realm of things, saw a Cinderella Story, which I think I remember seeing like when I was like 7 in Lake
It's the
George.
Russell Crowe one, right?
No. This is the Hilary Duff one. It's a.
I like her.
Yeah, it's a cute little movie. It's like a very tongue-in-cheek. It's like the opposite of this kind of satire, where they definitely there's a little satirical elements. Nothing like Heathers, but still slightly satirical. But basically, Hilary Duff,
nothing's like Heathers.
Her dad dies, and the ugly, the stepmother, played by Jennifer Coolidge, who was excellent in this, and then she meets her Prince Charming right at the big school dance, and it's a chase to find her. Cute little movie. I enjoyed it. Nothing I felt like didn't change my world or anything, but it
nice little rom-com with the girlfriend, right?
Yeah, it was a nice little movie, and I don't know. I also watched Ghostbusters recently to kick off spooky season.
I just watched that with my kids.
It's a great movie.
It was the best.
It's a great movie. Lightning in a bottle. You can't replicate it. You can't make a sequel to it. It just works in its own little world, and then from there, you should have just let it die. But they can't. They can't. They're still going to keep making new ones.
1 and 2 are great.
You lead off with some shitty Hilary Duff movie and just drop the bomb and you watch Ghostbusters.
Hey, it wasn't shitty. Whoa, it was.
You sandbagging son of a gun.
Well, I was following in your. I wanted to put something that wasn't.
I was in on Hilary Duff. Then he sets the hook with Ghostbusters.
Hey, I'm a man of mystery and intrigue. You never know what's going to come out of my mouth. Apparently, we know it's going to drop out of Tommy's, but not. That was a cursing joke.
Well, I feel like I have very small windows to be able to curse because 3 daughters, wife, high school teacher, like there's not a lot of windows. So like I usually let it rip when I'm with the boys, but then I heard your mom caught me and I'm instantly feeling shame.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
I've had
up the
no
podcast.
Shame I've had no shame about cursing.
You started watching South Park when you were 3. Shocker.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very, very shocking that Tommy does not have any filter on that whatsoever.
I guess to lead us off into Heathers, my Teen Angst bullshit has a podcast now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. So anyway, this is Heathers.
I've got no control over myself when I'm with JD.
Veronica and JD, that righteous dude, have a growing relationship.
No way.
Based on trust.
Maybe.
Love.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And murder.
Now you're talking.
Everybody run.
Usually murder isn't funny. At Westerberg, it's a cause for celebration. Heathers, rated R.
The homecoming queen has got a gun.
So this is a black comedy from 1989, starring Winona Ryder, Christian Slater. I'd only known of this movie really as like the breakout for both of them, kind of, or like their big break. But I understand now that this movie kind of got more of a cult status to it over the years. Like it made $1.1 million at the box office.
It did set the world on fire.
It was a big VHS movie. A lot of blockbuster rentals on this bad boy.
Yeah, and I can see that. Maybe not wanting to be the movie that's gonna set the box office on fire. Which ends with a nice dose of domestic terrorism. So for you, Tommy, this is your third or fourth time watching it. Why is this movie for you the friendship barometer test?
I just think that there's like there's a certain like level of humor of black comedy that people either get or don't get, and I'm someone who likes to get really dark with my humor sometimes. And I remember I watched this movie to someone like 3 or 4 years ago, and after it was over, my friend just said, "That was a weird movie," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, we're not that
We're
close."
done here.
Yeah, exactly. We're not that close right here. It's just something about like the script of this movie that the one-liners over and over and over again. I mean, like it is dark, but it's not dark to the point that I get depressed or bummed out. Whereas Tim thought that like you thought what, like we watched this after work, like, oh, this is why am I watching this depressing movie? I was laughing my ass off.
I didn't think it was depressing. I just thought it was like I didn't like the way it set the tone at the beginning, and I get why they did it. It was just very, very mean opening so we learned that Veronica, played by Winona Ryder, is able to forge anybody's note or whatever, which leads to her writing suicide notes, but she writes a sexually charged letter to the ugly girl at the end of the lunch table from one of the quarterbacks, and I was like, oh, like I didn't like that. I mean, it made sense.
Yeah.
It made sense thematically. It just put like a wrong
in many ways, and not in terms of popularity, but in terms of like tone. This is a great sister movie to like Mean Girls. You know, you can see direct correlation.
Totally.
Oh yeah,
and
there's
it's
definitely
the
a lot
different
of
generation of it.
And
100%.
and not to tie it back in terms of like the a Cinderella story, the movie I was talking about before. In that movie, there's a big
always bring up the shitty Hillary Duff movie.
I like Hillary Duff.
No, but there's
I'm a
like
Lizzie
part of the
McGuire
satirical
fan.
nature was about the caste system of popularity within that school, and that was like very evident here. So it obviously borrowed some of its DNA.
It's something that's prevalent.
Very prevalent in the 80s, 90s, 2000s,
Well,
in movies.
it's
especially.
the same thing with different dressing. Having personally been in high school for 22 plus years,
wow, I'm real sorry for you. Can't pass the
graduate, man.
Yeah,
no. Those
don't worry,
are really hard.
Yeah, keep the party going.
I'm giving it a try. No, I've been in high school for 22 years.
Yeah,
it's always the same. It's how it's disguised.
Yeah,
you gotta rate Heathers as a product of its time. Grunge was totally in when this came out. It was
right around the doorstep, 89, right?
No, in the thick of it. Like that was when it was all going. And like the idea of like being cheerful for your school and having this like 80s like proudness about things like the Reagan, like this was the complete counterculture. And I feel like Tim thinks it's being mean. Like the whole thing is incredibly satirical, but kids were a lot more openly forward mean. It's much more disguised now. Like,
it's online now.
Yes, of course. Back then, there was no online, there was no anything. It was, I'm going to tell everyone what you did. Yeah. Like, I am like, by 8 a.m. tomorrow, you are ruined. Like how Heather 1 basically threatens Veronica. Like it was very there was a small window of where you could be cool, and it was at school, and that was it. That was your whole life.
Let me clarify though. When I say it left, it just like not knowing where this movie was gonna go, it felt very bluntly mean. Like I'm not discrediting. It just put like in terms of that dark humor. I like dark humor typically. That like I liked the opening sequence of the croquet. Into the overvoiced narration. I didn't necessarily love that, but it like pays off later and at the very end of the movie as well.
And it's the vibe. It's that Stepford vibe of like, we play croquet, we dress this way. Like it's we all have the same name. Like if it came out today, it would be called Karen's, you know?
So exactly. Tim, as someone who never saw this movie, I mean, like how hard of a right turn did it feel like when they give Heather 1, the cup of Drano right there, and she just
Took
dies right
a
there.
really, really right turn.
Were you
Well,
be like,
I-
oh, Tim, you
and
got me
I-
to
and I
watch some
felt
shitty
the-
horror movie?
And I felt well, I knew if Dowling was coming on for this one, he was not going to do some shitty horror movie, Tommy.
I am quite weak in constitution when it comes to horror movies.
Yeah, so I knew that wasn't going to happen. But like it was the scene before that where they go to the party, the frat party, and like the one Veronica like is pretty much
The one
Heather, sorry,
Yes.
coerced into having sex, and then Veronica is basically like
Puking,
puking
mess,
and stuff, and I'm like,
lighting
okay, like I'm seeing where
fires.
this dark satire is. I didn't expect Jade. Well, I guess the big shock was when he shoots the two guys with like blank bullets.
I don't
at the
know.
school.
That was incredible shock. I felt the tone changed, and it's the part of the movie where I'm like, oh, this is serious. When he looks at the cup Veronica takes and realizes it's the hull cleaner and not the orange and milk, and he knew it. And
he knew it.
Let her
100%.
do it. That is when I'm like, oh,
This got real.
this is they're gonna kill this chick, and she doesn't even know.
Well, it's funny how the movie plays off of that in a little bit. Like in the beginning, where like she keeps on falling into traps of like, oh, we're not gonna kill the two football players right here. We have like some blank bullets that aren't really gonna kill them right here. But after a while, it's like, all right, Winona Ryder, how fucking like gullible are you that you're believing? Like, oh,
Exactly.
okay, yeah.
I feel like that totally touches the perfect high school condition where it's you feel there is an external control on your life and you have no control of what happens to you. And it's like, no, you're making these choices to believe this psychopath, like a true sociopath. He might be cool, but like,
there's one note that I said like right in the beginning of the movie. He shoots the blanks at the two football players.
Yes.
And like you're like, oh, and they talk immediately like, oh,
it's called a red flag.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, he's not gonna get expelled. He's probably gonna be suspended. I wrote immediately, this is what is aged worse than the movie because that guy would be fucking expelled, arrested in jail.
Shooters weren't as big of a problem, and then Columbine was another 10
What year
years
did
away.
this come out? 89. 89. Okay, so this is a year or two before Jeremy was the number one hit for Pearl Jam about a school shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and
that
10
wasn't
years before Columbine.
Correct. Columbine was 99. Like, it wasn't a thing people thought of. Like, it was satirical. You could make jokes about it then.
Yeah, you can't make a joke.
You can't
about
do
a
that
school
now. You can't do it.
It's the point they made a Heather's TV show about 5 years ago that apparently was god awful, but they didn't even broadcast in the US because I think it was supposed to be released and a school shooting happened maybe a week before. They're like, okay, we can't release this now. not in this climate right now. So
it's a product of its time completely.
Exactly. But in a way that I still feel like works in a way.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, one thing about this movie that I was just writing down. I don't usually do this when we cover movies, but I was writing down quotes so much. I mean, we said earlier, "Fuck me gently with a chainsaw." My teen angst bullshit has a body count now. My favorite is fucking Shannon Doherty when she says to Veronica, she's like, "Veronica, why are you pulling my dick?"
No, it has the perfect pulse of the time. Those were the jokes people made. It was fresh. It was funny. It was not, when you watch a teen movie, quote unquote, and it's hacky, you know what I mean? And like nothing hits and you're like, oh, good. We're watching some.
It's when they try too hard.
Exactly.
And the new Ghostbusters movie from 2 years ago, when there's a character named Podcast, because podcasts are big right now, so we have a character named Podcast. It's like, all right, come on, try a little bit harder.
Yes.
Hey,
this was what was your line, Tim? You can see the strings.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this script was made by this guy Daniel Waters. He was kind of like a Tarantino type. That he was a video store clerk. He wrote this movie, and he wanted Stanley Kubrick to direct this originally, which would have been like,
oh my god.
insane because like this is also probably some like video store clerk that was high as fuck and be like, you know who I'm gonna get to write my movie? The fucking best director out there right now. Like after hitting a bong or something like that. Obviously, Kubrick did not return any of his letters that he wrote about like, hey, you should direct this movie for me. So instead, this guy Michael Lehman is his first movie ever. He's also known for Because I Said So and 40 Days and 40 Nights. So rom-com guy mostly, but can you imagine the Kubrick version of this, Tim, as a Kubrick head?
I love Kubrick.
I get that it's inspired by Kubrick, but it doesn't feel like I don't think the movie works if it's in like a Kubrick tone.
It'd be more psychological, which is tough.
They were saying the cafeteria scene in the original script, like in the beginning of the movie, was written to be a homage to the barrack scene in Full Metal Jacket. So probably like like really extended right there.
Yes.
Which I think we got the better version because like Kubrick, I don't know how well this would have been. It would have been maybe a little overlong.
You might have been too old to do it. Like you might think it's hard to understand.
You get your finger on the pulse of
the
culture of 16 and 17-year-olds.
It's very, very, and it changes faster than you can imagine.
Yeah.
I remember when everyone loved New Kids on the Block, and next week it was like, oh, you like them? No, it's in high school, lightning fast, and it's quicker today.
What I love though is just like once this movie ramps up and we really get to like the Heather Chandler, her suicide, how you clearly see how every single character slowly just makes the suicide about themselves. Like the one character saying, oh, she dated me and like, she said that she wasn't ready. And maybe like, that was her just like not ready for a relationship with me or something.
It's so satirical. It's like she underlined Eskimo. Like that's so perfect.
Or when they frame the football players as gay lovers when they kill them in the woods. And then the dad is like, I know you're my gay son, but I love you. I love you anyway. Even though you're my gay son. And I'm like,
it's so satirical. It's kind of like John Lennon when he was with the Beatles and people were like, they're going to analyze what I'm saying and stuff. That's why he wrote I Am the Walrus. It was completely made up words just to mess with people. Like it's this idea that like everything has to have a meaning, and in tragedy it's almost self-fulfilling. Like you're doing it to make yourself, this is why this awful thing happened, and it's contagious. Like that's another thing in the 80s and 90s. Like when someone would commit suicide in schools, it would always have copycats, and like that
it was this whole epidemic at the time. In the 80s.
That's what I think is the darkest part about this movie, is it's literally like it's satirizing that, which is incredible. They got away with it.
Well, they got away with it because they did it right, because it's on the pulse, because it was three kids committing suicide, quote unquote, even though they were killed, and then you have the one person who, the girl who's bullied at the beginning, who then tries to doesn't successfully do it, and then it's like just like everything else, she's just failing to imitate the popular kids, and it's like, oh,
that's my God. Why I don't think it's mean. I think it's dark and terrible at a lot of places, but at the end, she's gonna watch movies with Veronica on prom night. Like I feel like there's a nice red bow on the end of it.
In terms of the context of the time, the high school is named Westerberg High after the Replacements lead singer Paul Westerberg, and they're a band in the 80s that released a song called "The Ledge." That was about teen suicide that they're going to have on MTV, and then turns out that MTV revoked it because at the time a rash of teen suicides were happening around the nation. This was like 87, about like
contagious.
2 years before this movie came out. So
similar things happened when that show 13 Reasons Why came out. The HBO one. It's some people need to push. It's horrible.
Yeah. So got a little layer point. I want to touch upon Shannon Doherty. I think that she's just a great comedic, like,
amazing
persona. Just great, like, bitch character. She plays that really well. There's one point
that's
in this
her
movie,
main that's her main role, and she's just so good at it.
she knocks it out of the park. I mean, there's one quote I wrote down that she said in this movie, said, like, Veronica, why are you such a bitch? Is because I can so. And it's like that
Because
sums
I
up Shannon
can be.
Doherty's whole career right there. Notorious for being like on-set trouble right there. She's great.
If you not looked at me, I'm beautiful and I'm popular. I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. She apparently, they said during filming that she didn't have much of a sense of humor. She took herself a little too seriously. And one of the guys said, I don't think Shannon understood really got what Heather's was. And that worked for us. That made the character real. So she sees this movie for the first time during the premiere. And she runs out crying because she realized the film was a dark comedy and not the drama that she was expecting.
Oh my God, she's the best actress ever.
Yeah, exactly. Just like totally misreading the film you're in, but just makes it better for the film we're watching.
That's even a better story than the young boy from The Shining that didn't know it was a horror. That's funnier.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that makes a little more sense because it's harder to explain that to like a 6-year-old than to like a grown female actress who should have some pulse on how the industry operates.
It's hard to be humble when you're great.
True. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, she did a great job. I mean, the performances were great overall.
Oh, amazing.
Amazing. Christian Slater's just doing a Jack Nicholson impression,
exactly.
But it
it's
works.
it's like, okay, play Jack Nicholson impersonating James Dean. Go. And don't worry, we'll give you an earring so you're edgy.
He apparently like wrote a letter to Nicholson saying, hey, you should watch this film, but he never received an answer. But it's pretty much, you can see just like, this is like Jack Nicholson if he was in high school right here. He's doing this all mannerisms.
I wrote that too. I wrote that down too.
Yeah.
And this slid him right into Tarantino's True Romance, which is another quite a good film.
Great movie too. I mean, like Christian Slater was off the riding off the highs of this and everything like that, but he has Nicholson to thanks for his career because
without a doubt. Hey, good artist copy, great artist steal.
I mean, as a way in this movie, I mean, like this movie would not work whatsoever if JD was just like some slime ball or creep. I mean, there's a little bit of charm.
He totally is a slime ball creep sociopath, but that's what high school girls like. And that's why this movie gets it.
But he's a charming one though. At the end of the day. He is, but like
he's very charming, like when they're at the store. And he like with the soda, like that one of those first initial interactions. Like you can see the slushies, you can see it. And even at like when he sneaks into her room after the frat party and then they play croquet, quote unquote.
Euphemism.
Good euphemism. And Christian Slater definitely has that charm to
bad
him
boy
right there.
He's the ultimate bad boy of the late 80s, 90s.
Yeah, and I mean he's dressed like Neo from the Matrix.
100%.
No,
I mean it's the Columbine vibes.
It really is. I wasn't going to say it, but those are your words, not mine.
I'll
put it out there.
But you were not wrong. A lot of Magic the Gathering players I played against looked exactly like him.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But you can also tell he's not stupid. He plays the little game with his father where they reverse the roles and say,
oh, yeah.
Father, and say, hey, you need a little help with your homework. Like it's
hey,
just,
son, you gotta introduce me to the daughter right there.
Yes.
It's a great scene of just showing like his family life of just
and
this
it's
guy's
like
broken completely.
Oh, and he is a puppet. Like he's in a house that has sculptures all over the place. He tells the tragic backstory of the last time he saw his mother. She was waving out the window of a complex. His father detonated. Like, yes, this man is completely a sociopath. And what's scary is he is so good at hiding it. We don't see it until he's ready to kill someone, where he doesn't tell Veronica that she's giving Heather Chandler poison.
I think the clues were dropping there before even he gave the
totally. But that was where it's like, oh no, we have crossed the Rubicon. Now everyone's either a murderer or an accessory to murder. It was dark. It got murderous.
Exactly.
Definitely. All right. So now we could talk about some more
Shocking.
performances right here too.
Oh yes.
I am a star. I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
All right. So is it Christian Slater? Is it Winona Ryder? Because Winona Ryder really is the vehicle of this movie. It's put onto her perspective. It's she's the lens of the movie. But Slater does have that charm that kind of he's able to carry through. But I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on who the star of this movie is.
I think it's without a doubt Winona Ryder. I mean, I think she has some of my favorite lines. Like, her narration is just so funny. Just seeing her just like write in her diary just angrily, and just like such a great actor right there. I mean, narration could obviously like tank a movie if it's done awfully, but I think in her case it's done really well. And she has just like the most iconic thing in the end of the movie where it's like, hey, so I'm gonna what are you gonna do for your final moments? And she just lights a cigarette and just like, all right, let's see what happens, bitch. And this is her coming off of Beetlejuice. I mean, like, Beetlejuice was literally the year before, and just like that, between that and then the year after this was Edward Scissorhands, just cemented her as just an alt icon right there.
Yeah, I want to say it's her too. Like, you need Slater to work, but you also need Veronica to work, because you need like, because it's an interesting question of like, is she just an accomplice to the crimes, or is she like, as we were saying, or is she truly like behind it? Because when she's writing furiously in her diary, like, it's about like, I want to kill Heather McNamara, like I want to kill her, and then it gets taken to that literal next step. I think she ends up redeeming herself by saving an entire school in the film's perspective, but you have to be likable and also, play the part of that like ambiguity between like being guilty or not being guilty, like where does it live?
I don't know what happened.
So yeah, as I was gonna say, like, so end of the movie, she fucking what's his name, JD blows himself up and everything like that. What happens to Ryder after she like has like the dinner
she's
night?
Hey, I feel
is she in jail?
No, she who knows. But the one thing is, she doesn't give a fuck, because she takes the red scrunchie and she says there's a new sheriff in town.
Exactly.
Yeah, she runs the school now. It's her.
We'll figure it out.
And I don't think that
the throwaway line is she has a genius IQ. She could have skipped grades. She was telling JD that after their croquet. Well, like, that's why her handwriting's good. She's smart. She's good looking.
Well, it's also just the way that you feel the character is just not really connected to anyone. I mean, like, the way that she has like conversations with her parents are just repeating the same jokes over and over and over again.
Totally.
I'll just be like, what? Her dad be like, why do I do this? Because you're an idiot. It's like, oh yeah, that's why. And they do that joke like 2 or 3 times throughout the movie, and you get a sense that that's like the only conversation she really has for parents.
Yeah, you get a lot of the Freaks and Geeks vibe with Linda Cardinelli and her one friend who like plays the organ a lot and doesn't drink when she's going back to meet Fogg and play croquet. And it's like, this was really nice. And it's just that I feel like that tried to show the soul of her. Just like Heather Duke burns up the picture of dump truck in her as a child, like there was a cool duality there. That's how Christian Slater bribed her to get the petition to blow up the school signed, like there's a lot of nice little touches.
Yeah. I do want to shout out the priest in this movie.
He was wonderful.
From Beetlejuice.
Otho.
Yeah, he was amazing. Just all of his little quotes right here where he's just like quoting Moby Dick at the end right there.
Oh, yes. Eskimo. And like, they just made it feel perfectly weird. Like the 60s 3D glasses, the old white. Like, I was like, this just feels like David Lynch directed this part.
That one part was very dreamlike, intentionally, but yeah. Yeah. The priest was great. He had great comedic timing. That was one of the funnier.
Amazing.
That was one of the funnier lines where it's like, I have this quote from Moby Dick to read, and it's like,
Some innocuous bullshit.
It's
Yeah.
so perfectly satirical, like attach meaning to nothing. Go.
and I just love like how the faculty reacts in this movie. I'm just like, there's the hippie teacher that makes it all about her.
Oh,
and it's just like,
dude, they're in every school.
yeah, and then how she says like Winona Ryder says, it's like, get a job after she says some bullshit. It's like, teen suicide's a real step that teens can take. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
It's like, stop. Just stop. We had a friendship circle. We took care of it. I think there's a lot of scene stealers. Heather Chandler was incredible. I loved her in Say Anything. She was the perfect queen bee. I think she was modeled after everyone. She wasn't in it long enough. Shannon Doherty was incredible. Like the scene of her posing, her being like the bulimic mess, like amazing. But I think it has to go to the sociopath. It's got to be Christian Slater. Like the movie doesn't work unless you have an insane person, good enough looking and popular enough to move it along. It's kind of like how, I won't even say. I was going to say it's kind of like Kanye, talented and insane.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's an upset on the Kanye.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Slater in general, just like very captivating performance, very engaging performance, and like it's good that he's not just some like little dweeb or something like.
It wouldn't work.
If he was like the creep from like, imagine he was the creep from like Wedding Crashers or something like that. Like it'd be like, no, what is this movie?
No one would believe Veronica would hang around with him. He has to have the charisma. Like he has to sell it for this movie to work. So that's why I'm going for him.
All right.
Are you ready, comedy partner? Waka waka.
So, boys, would Heathers work as a Muppet adaptation?
There's a part of me that wants to say yes right here, but like you see like the dream sequences and it's just like they're all Muppets right there and there instead of like all the white robes. But overall, this movie's not cartoonish enough. I mean, I guess the end of the movie, JD would be played by who's the Dynamite guy in the Muppets?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
The one Muppet that like always just like is like having a dynamite, like boom, explosion right there. And that's the end of the movie. He just blows himself up right there, just like oh, and then the Muppet's still alive, but he's just like completely tar black. Like
so would it work if everyone was a human except for JD?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely, 100%. I think dealing with school shootings, probably not the Muppets up the Muppets alley. If we're going to be honest, different vibe for sure. I want to say no on this one. I don't see a Muppet adaptation of Heathers in any time in the future. But I could
His
be
name
wrong.
is Crazy Harry. That's the Muppet right there.
Crazy Harry. Crazy Harry plays JD.
Perfect name.
Exactly. He looks like JD too, looking at the photo right now. But yeah, I mean, like what do you have else? Like Miss Piggy being one of the Heathers, Heather one, right there immediately.
Has to be.
Well, I think that I can't drink this cup of Drano.
Oh, I'm mad. I'm laughing about it.
All right, boys. Review time.
You know what? I think it would not work as a Muppet adaptation because the aesthetics matter so much in high school. It wouldn't be believable if they weren't all good looking.
If you mean it wouldn't be believable if they're all Muppets?
Yeah.
Shocker.
Right no. You need that unconscious, like, oh, I see why he's popular. I see why she's popular. I see why this person is not. You give it Muppets, no one's laughing at Dump Truck, and you wouldn't get it,
Yeah. So, Dowling, you're going to review time. Give me your score
out of 5 stars.
Okay, out of 5 stars. The first time I watched this movie, I thought it was a 3. Every time since, I'm giving it a 4. I think it's quite insightful. I think it's a great dark comedy. And like, I feel a lot of children of the 80s and 90s, like, were shocked the first time they saw this and like, oh, you can make jokes about, like, I felt it opened up a window in terms of like just laughing at mean things, which sounds bad, but I think it's a 4 all day for me.
All right, Tommy, what about you?
All right, I'm going to echo Dowling's sentiments right here. I'm going to go 4 out of 5. Like I said at the beginning of this pod, this is a litmus test of a movie in terms of dark humor. If you love this movie in terms of dark humor, then you get me. You get my sense of humor. I just think that this still plays really well today. Other than JD not getting expelled for shooting a gun. I mean, whatever, some shit happened in the 80s. We'll forgive it. We'll forgive it.
Bend a few rules.
Yeah, bend a few rules right here and there. But Christian Slater, great performance right here. I mean,
Yeah.
Winona Ryder, all timer right here. This movie just makes me laugh. So many quotable lines. I mean, like I literally was just writing it throughout this, just notes. It's just like, this is funny. This is funny. This is funny. So 4 out of 5. Love watching this movie over and over again.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I'm between a 2.5 and a 3 right now. You're leaning me towards 3 and I'm saying 3 because I feel like this is a movie I'll have to rewatch. Frankly, I was not in the mood for this movie, and the shock
I told
value
you
was
I
kinda
gained
there.
a star when I rewatched it.
Yeah, and I think there's a movie I need to kind of rewatch to maybe have it hit more effectively.
Be aware there's suicides in this movie.
Yeah, no. It's a deeper movie than you think. It's like if you read the screenplay to someone and be like, no, it's a school movie, it's about killing people in a high school, and then at the end they blow it up and they're like, do they stop them? Is this an action movie? They're like, no, it's comedy.
You'd be like, what?
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to leave it at a 3 out of 5 right now. I could see it being one of those movies that grows on me over time, but for right now, part of it was just not, I was hoping to watch it the night before, but the Giants ruined
I don't want to talk
chance
about
of
it.
me wanting. Yeah, we're not talking about it, but they ruined any chance of me wanting to watch a movie. So
all
I had to watch it
the
after work before we recorded.
cheerfulness of our lives disappeared.
Disappeared last night, definitely. And the Jets
Dementors were sleeping in my bed.
Yeah, and then the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no. It's and after the Yankees and Mets, it's not. The sports aren't good in New York.
Yeah, nope, they are not. Well, Dowling, thank you so much for hopping on.
Hey,
with
love
us
you
here.
guys. It's always fun. I always have a good time shooting the breeze with the boys.
Definitely. And Tommy, any final thoughts?
Why are you pulling my dick, Timmy? But yeah, anyways,
I
thank you
didn't
guys.
see that coming.
Thank you guys so much for listening. You can follow us on social media at Seen It Pod. That's on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads apparently. And also, leave us a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I do want to mention, shout out that I'm actually volunteering for the Connecticut Horror Fest next week on the 24th. I'm going to be a volunteer in XL Center in Hartford. Come say hi. And other than that, next week we have Moneyball coming up, and we're gearing up, so get ready.
Oh, good one.
Moneyballs next week. Thank you all so much for listening today. Tommy definitely had that one queued up, ready to go, like before he started the pod. He's like, Tim asks me that question every single week. I have it queued, ready to go. So thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week.